Good morning, good morning, everybody, or evening, or afternoon, wherever you are. Ah, we are live, we are live. Just waiting, everybody's to come on, hopefully. I know some might not make it, other commitments. And while we wait, and while I share to the various places everybody can see, there we go, there we go. All right, brilliant. Brilliant. I want to go over last week what we were focused on and what we were focused on, uh, which is about investing in remedy. Sorry, about responsibility. That was the previous week. About responsibility. We never really got into it because we got all involved with Cher and Jessica, and it was wonderful. And we had a fantastically awesome, great discussion. It was really cool. So I want to make sure that we did cover this just in the interest of completeness, at least for me. Hi, Georgianne. Brilliant, brilliant. Glad to hear, Georgianne. Brilliant, brilliant. So responsibility is so huge, it's so critical, it's absolutely key to everything. And it's super important to understand this about responsibility. So for me, I like to be thorough, and I like to have this, just my triple Virgo side, as Bina likes to say. And so I want to share the slides of this part and just go over them because we didn't actually do that last week. So just simple, real quick, and while those who are coming join or not, either way, it's all good. All right, so the quote for this section here is, it's not whether or not change happens, it's whether or not you fight or welcome change. Change is an inevitability. We either make a big deal out of it or not. It's our choice. And in that choice lies our responsibility. Assuming and accepting responsibility. Two huge words. To assume responsibility, to take it on, right? I am assuming this responsibility applies to me. So this is kind of key in many areas. We need to assume that, take it on, and step up into responsibility. This is to assume responsibility, right? And then to accept it, because we may assume it and assume it in the sense of taking it on, but we might not really accept it, and then it becomes half-hearted, and that's no good. We have to acknowledge there is responsibility. We have to assume and accept in our endeavor to remedy our anxiety and worry. Otherwise, who's going to be doing what's needed and implementing the changes? This is really key, not just for changing anxiety and worry, but for changing anything that's undesirable. Anger, annoyance, irritation, assuming people are unfair to you and getting upset and bothered because of this assumption of unfairness. Well, many oftentimes it's our doings that get us upset. It's our doings that get us anxious and worried. That's it. Worried. It's our doings. So we have to assume responsibility for changing this, right? This is our doing. We have to step up. If we don't, nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to happen. Brilliant. Amron is here. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, brilliant, brilliant. Amron, Norma, Nomra. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Brilliant. Yes, I'll just move shifting this there real quick so I can see the slides and I can see the comments. You see, now you see my screen too, so I can move things around. Now, on this responsibility, we the ones that have to accept responsibility. And this reluctance to accept responsibility, this is a major, major, major big deal in the world. It's huge. And so many of our personal problems come. Why? Because we don't want to assume responsibility. Very simple. Very, very, very simple. And it's very key. Why don't we want to assume responsibility? Well, it's too much effort, it's too much bother. I'm hoping somebody else will fix me and do it for me, and they will, I don't know, solve all my problems somehow, right? Somebody else, and somebody else must do it, not me. Too much bother, too much effort. Or we don't want to face and deal with the ugly truths involved. Right, the awful truth. Well, the awful truth is that I'm, being a pain in the butt, or I'm worrying for nothing, or I'm indulging in worrying because why? I don't know. It makes me a victim. It makes me special, and all sorts of nonsense. We'll get to the payoffs of anxiety and worry in later modules. It's a big deal. Those payoffs. There are reasons why we do this, why we do behavior that doesn't make much sense. But the key point is, if you aren't going to accept and assume responsibility for change yourself, well, nothing's going to happen. Sorry, that's just the doing of it, right? So it's up to you. It's up to you. So we have to assume responsibilities such as making time, making effort, honoring awareness, which means acting on, applying it. It's no point you just have this awareness. Oh my God, that was so profound. Oh, that was so huge. Oh my goodness, this is life changing. This is going to be the and then you do nothing about it. Now, how often haven't that happened to you when you saw these wonderful memes, and they are wonderful, but nothing came of it, right? Do you even remember that meme that you said that about? I don't think so, right? So the point is, you've got to honor that awareness. You've got to honor that realization through action, through application. Without application, it's all meaningless. Freedom of self-honesty. Oh, what a responsibility. What a responsibility. Self-honesty and honesty. It's huge. If you can't be honest with yourself, well, then you're wasting your time. You can forget about changing, right? That's it. Nothing's going to happen. That's just, you're going to just be stuck in bullshit, and that's it. Excuse me, but that's it. And while my whole book is about understanding that bullshit needs to be something that we can say and not hide from, right? We can say lies. We don't have a problem saying lies. What is bullshit but lies? Yes. My whole book is all about this, and the consequences and the power and all of the ramifications of bullshit. It's a huge deal. Bullshit is not just, it's no big deal. No, it's lies, it's deception. We try to make it out like it's nothing, but it's not. Now, if you're going to not to be self-honest, well, you're just bullshitting yourself. You're lying to yourself, you're deceiving yourself. See, that's the ugly way of saying it. But when you're not really being honest with yourself and you are bullshitting yourself, you kind of, well, I'm just, I'm just sort of exaggerating a little bit. I'm just, all the squirming, right? You can even see the body language of people who do that. You're just squirming right there. You're being squirrely. You don't want to face the truth, which is, no, you're lying to yourself. You're deceiving yourself, right? So if you don't want to take responsibility for your nonsense, then you're just going to live in this world of bullshit all the time, and you're just going to perpetuate all this stuff. So I'm sorry to be harsh. Sorry to be harsh, but that's the reality. That's the reality, right? So acceptance of change. That's the other thing. We're so afraid of change for no good reason. Why? Because, well, what we have is comfortable, even though we're not really happy, but at least it's familiar. And through that familiarity, we've come to fool ourselves to thinking it's comfort. It's not really, it's just familiarity. That's all. So don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of change. There's no real reason for it. Things are going to change anyway. So you might as well accept it and move with it or not. So you have to take accepted responsibility also for trust of remedy. That's a big responsibility to accept. It's a very subtle one. It's not very obvious. And not many realize this is something they need to do. They might not wish to embark on change or make an effort to do something, apply, take a course, read the book, whatever it is, or change your habits, think differently, just make an effort in some way. They don't, because they don't trust there is a remedy. Yes. Well, of course, somebody like me who's got a course, well, I'm telling you, oh, well, there is a remedy. This is what the course is all about. Well, at some point you can't say, well, he may be just saying that because it's his course and whatever, and others, they want to sell me stuff and all. Sure, a lot of them will tell you they've got all these wonderful remedies when they really don't. But at some point, you have to trust that there is a remedy. Now, how can you do this? I have an answer for you. Well, you can say, look around. Does everyone worry? Is everyone anxious? Well, no, not so. So there must be a remedy because it doesn't apply to everybody. Not everybody's anxious. Yeah, but then you could say, yeah, but maybe that's just how they are. They just sort of came that way and all this, just that. Well, okay, that may be true. But are there people who used to worry who don't worry anymore? Are there people who used to be anxious who don't or aren't anxious anymore? Yes, there are plenty of them, right? I mean, you just can search the internet and look around you, probably people you know and so on, right? So this is something that can be done. Therefore, you can trust in remedy. Yes, it can be changed. If you don't trust that it can be changed, you're going to have a self-fulfilling prophecy and you're not going to get anywhere, right? Because you don't believe it. It cannot happen. Sometimes I guess things happen despite us believing they don't. And that's also powerful, right? So trust in remedy. But certainly, if you don't believe it, you're going to make it much more difficult for it to happen. But it can happen against your beliefs. I've seen that happen to people despite themselves. But then you have to keep going, which means that some part of you trusts in the remedy, right? You keep persisting, you keep continuing doing the course, the program, whatever. So I don't really believe this stuff. And in the end, it works anyway. I've seen that happen. It's too amazing. Patience and persistence. You have to take responsibility for these two magical P's, right? Patience and persistence. You don't take responsibility for being patient. Well, how on earth are you ever going to get to where you want to go? Well, you may get there, but you're going to get there with stress and bother, with fuss, with hassle, with anxiety. But no, so just hang on, be patient. It will come. Don't make it worse by not being patient. And think about it. Isn't patience just arrogance in disguise? Hello, sir. Brilliant, brilliant. Right. So I'll continue about patience here. Georgianne has a comment. Let's see, Georgianne. Let's see. What if you struggle with something personal, but know you need to do it, but scared to do it again when the first time it wasn't successful? But it's worse now than it's ever been. Yes, I hear you. I hear you, Georgianne. I absolutely hear you. And in those cases, that's where the previous 2 weeks ago, right? Because I'm going over what we were covering last week, but got involved in with other stuff. Hello, sir. Glad you could join. So this is in order to do this, it's to invest in remedy, Georgianne. You got to invest in this case. Sometimes when we do have something that's very personal, right? And we've had a really severely bad experience. So we've got a negative association with whatever it is we need to deal with. So when we start to deal with this, all of our fears and anxieties come up, and it's a very strong thing, right? It's like a phobia almost, right? Now, phobias aren't always logical. They come about because the brain is associated something. For instance, I've got a phobia about, or not me, but somebody has a phobia about crossing the threshold of a house, right? And so, well, what on earth is this all about? Why would you have a fear of crossing a threshold? Well, it turns out this person, when they were young, as they were right at the moment they were stepping over that threshold, a spider happened to fall from the eaves above there as they were stepping outside, and it fell on their face, and oh my God, they freaked out, and anyway, they were scared out of their mind. So, but they forgot all about the spider because they were focused on crossing the threshold. So the threshold got associated with the fear. It's not logical, it's not rational, but there's that deep association, right? So in cases like that, it helps to have an external perspective in order to help you overcome whatever that deep association is. Now, dealing with phobias and such associations, it's a matter of structured, focused emphasis and de-emphasis. So you certainly can get assistance and help there. But you have to take the responsibility for getting started, for actually saying, hey, listen, I know I'm stuck and I could use some help. Now, what the help is that you want is alternative perspectives, thinking of things differently, trying this, energy, all sorts of things. What you don't want is somebody giving you advice. Yeah, because advice is problematic. You think, but that doesn't make much sense. The problem with advice is it solves things right now in the immediate, maybe, but you don't really get to change inside because you're doing what somebody else is telling you to do. You're not living according to yourself. See, if you really want to change, then that person, instead of giving you advice, they'll give you options, they'll give you suggestions, they'll give you tools with which you can change yourself, and tools to build with, tools that help you to learn how to think. Yes, and learn how to feel, learn how to emphasize, learn how to de-emphasize, and learn how to perspective shift and perception shift and do all sorts of things. I mean, this is what the Dictionary of Power is all about. Tools, 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 tools. Yes, ask sure about tools. Now we're going to come to one particular tool in a moment that I mentioned now. I just want to finish with this, Georgianne. I love this. This is a very, very, very cool question that you mentioned, or point you made, right? This too, this again, you said that you did something, you're scared to do it again because the first time you tried it wasn't successful, and it's worse now than it's what's ever been. Yes, this is often the case with short-term solutions and quick and easy fixes and getting advice. You do something, but it's based on somebody else's idea, and they don't have the full details of what's going on. So it sounds good, it appears to be good, it seems to good, but then when you really try it because they don't know all the details, it doesn't work. And it may backfire and flop, right? I am pressured to do something that my family wants me to do. It's about my health. Well, anytime you cave into pressure, that's never good. So part of this is developing your own internal impeccability, right? Sure. You've got to learn to trust yourself. And this is the key point. So it's so powerful what you're saying, Georgianne. It's so powerful. What is our topic here? This is last week's one that I'm going over. Assuming and accepting responsibility. You are the one to decide. That's how you get rid of the pressure, to say, it's my choice, it's me, it's my body, it's my health. I am the only one who can decide. It's my responsibility. I assume it and I accept it, right? So this is one way to do that. Now, Georgianne, you're asking about very specific points and details here. It's difficult for me to respond in detail, to give a fuller picture, because I don't know all the ins and outs. Now, again, I can respond with much more tools of what can be done, not specific advice. But even so, for the tools, if you're building a house and I say, well, here's a hammer, you say, well, I'm not doing the hammer now. I haven't even cut the lumber into the right shape. Oh, well, you need a saw. You see, so my point is, I can supply you with tools, but it's helpful to know where you're at, what's going on. And then I can supply with the appropriate tools. So you're welcome to come on Zoom anytime, and we can talk about this anytime. Just let me know. But as we go through, see how what I'm saying applies to you. Like in this case with assuming and accepting responsibility, right? And trust that there is a remedy. I realize it's tricky if you've taken something that's a risk. So now we get into risk assessment. And risk assessment is a very, very big deal because it ties into trust, right? And I want to, I'm going to elaborate on this in a moment, on risk assessment. I just want to finish the last 2 points here. Commitment of purpose. Know what it is, why you're doing it, what you're doing it for. Right? Have clarity of intent. In other words, don't go, sure. Oh, dang it. I hope she just dropped off. And then compassion of self. Yes, you've got to have some compassion for yourself as well. This is very important to understand that things aren't necessarily going to be easy. Don't be too hard on yourself, but don't be too soft on yourself either, right? So don't overdo the compassion. Balance it out. That way you get your responsibility. It's very important. So I hope Sher comes back. Sorry, Sher. I didn't mean to ignore you. Yeah. Oh, she couldn't get her audio set. I see. Okay. All right. Brilliant. 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 Yeah. I was just really responding to Georgianne. Georgianne. The other thing I wanted to say. Yes. About risk. This is a very, very important thing, and it's absolutely my pleasure, Georgianne. Anytime. So risk assessment, right? If you've done something and you did into it, and well, you said something with your health, but I have no idea what your specifics are, but I'm just using what you said. It sparks my imagination. For instance, you went in for an operation and it didn't work, and now you need to do this operation again, right? There's no way you can know. You just have to take a chance. Sometimes that is how life is. But, but, I want to wait for sure because this is a big topic that's come up, and as soon as Sher connects, there we go. There we go. You with us, Sher?
No, I still don't have very good audio. I'm just going to have
Oh,
to
I hear
listen.
you. I hear you. I hear you.
But I can barely hear you. It's like listening to a pin drop.
Oh,
Yeah.
hang on a second. Let me just see if it's not my audio.
No, your audio is fine. It's my end.
Oh, okay, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
So I'm
assuming
just going to listen on Facebook. Okay.
all right. I hear
All
you
right.
fine. I really do. Okay, okay. Yeah, just leave and come back again. Sure, sure. All right. So, what I want to talk about is risk assessment. And this is what trust is all about. Yes. If we are trusting blindly, that's no good. Don't want to just trust and have no good reason to trust. If we absolutely have to, well, then it's a different story, right? But if the lion is chasing me and I've got to cross the fallen tree across the river and it looks a bit shaky and dicey, well, I have to trust that tree's going to hold me up because otherwise the lion's going to eat me, right? See, that's a case where we have to trust. Now, we don't often have that in life, but sometimes, right? Especially in our modern life, we have so many tools with um, which we can use for risk assessment. We can do research, right? We can talk to people, and you can go online. You can join forums and discussion groups, and groups in Facebook and all this. Now, of course, everybody's got a great big opinion, so you've got to be cautious too, right? So you've got to check the source of the opinion. But if you do enough of it, you start to get a vibe and an impression. You start to get the feel of what's going on. Of course, also understand that there's popular views, and sometimes the truth may not be popular. So just be persistent and be thorough in your research, right? Really, really be thorough. And when it comes to health, get a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth opinion, right? If your doctor is any good, any really good doctor welcomes second and third and fourth opinions, because for them, any diagnosis they make, and the prognosis too, right? These are really, they risk. They can never be 100% sure, right? Any doctor who says this is 100% this, well, got to be careful of such a doctor. And they've been a bit arrogant and presumptuous. So always, whatever they believe it to be is risky, because sometimes things can seem to be one thing. You think you have an heart attack, and it really, you got all the symptoms of the heart attack, but it turns out it was just gas. Okay, same symptoms, everything, but it's gas. So very simple thing, no big deal. Or you think it's gas and actually you have an heart attack, right? So we have to be careful. We have to be careful. That's all I'm saying, is take that responsibility for doing the research, do your homework, check things out. Be thorough, be absolutely thorough. Now, I will get a little bit, go a little bit deeper here. Go really deep on this. It's not really part of the anxiety and worry course. It's actually, this is something that we go into in detail and extensively in Way of Impeccability. However, I will say, once you've done all of your research, right, and this is part of impeccability. Impeccability is best use of energy, which means it's all about using your energy most effectively. Well, if you don't do your research and you need to come to a decision, that's not a very good use of your energy. Why? Because you're going to be taking a risk, because you don't really know what you're doing, and you know that you don't know everything you're doing. So you're going to have doubt, and doubts are going to be, it's like an extra computer, a program running on your computer, right? Doubts will suck your energy. So really terrible use of energy. It's like that little program running in the background, or all those little programs running in the background that make your computer slow or your phone slow, right? So don't have too many apps open, which is what doubts are, open apps, right? So do your homework, be thorough, do your research, be scrupulous in this, so that when the time comes to make a decision, you can make a decision with a clear conscience. This is huge. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. If I make my decision and I feel I've done everything I can do, there's not more I can do. Yes, I can read a million Google pages, but after page 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, they're not relevant to my topic. So Okay, theoretically, there was supposedly more I can do, but, time and effort, right? I've done in the circumstances with the conditions, I've done everything that I can do. Now my conscience is clean and I can make my decision. If there's a risk, so be it. If it doesn't turn out the way I hoped, okay, that's just fate, that's just life, so be it, right? And I have to accept that because, well, if I don't make the decision, then stuff can happen also, right? So sometimes we just have to accept and be a bit faithful in life. But if you make a decision and it doesn't turn out right, and you knew that, when you made it, well, I could have done more, and then you're going to have regrets and recrimination afterwards. Yes. And who's going to be to blame? You. That's why accepting responsibility is so powerful, right? Because then you don't do stuff like this. And it doesn't help you blame everybody else. No, at the bottom line, end of the day, it's you, your decision, right? Always, right? So this is a very powerful thing to make this effort to minimize risk, yes, and learn to really be careful and thoughtful and to look at understanding what's going on, to be aware of all of the factors going on, to apply discernment. These are all really powerful skills. You heard me talk about awareness, discernment, and understanding many, many times, right? ADU, in other words, because they add to you. Very powerful tools. So use these to get to that point where you've now said, I've minimized the risk. And well, if I have to take a risk, I have to take the risk. That's it. Yeah. So be informed, be informed. And also, there's a very powerful tool you can use. There's so many now that we get onto this. You can say effort reward. Say, well, I have to make a lot of effort. Well, all right, to take a risk, putting it in the context of effort, we could say risk reward. Yeah, all right, I have to take a risk here. What's the reward? Well, the reward is that I'm going to be more healthy, etc. What's the downside? Well, I may die in a year or two's time or whatever. So you can say, well, is the risk worth the reward? Maybe I die on the operating table. So you have to balance this. And that's a decision only you can make. Again, we come back to this accepting and assuming responsibility, right? So I'm just saying you have to really go through it and be thorough. Don't be put off on going into this because in the beginning it's all cloudy and foggy and you don't know. Make lists. Say, okay, what's important about this? What are the pros? What are the cons? Do your research and say, what are the risks involved? And who says there are risks, right? And like in medical stuff, health stuff, get multiple opinions. Absolutely get multiple opinions, right? There's no consensus. We would like to think so in the medical field, there would be consensus, but there isn't, right? It doesn't matter how much is not, so it's not consensus. So make that effort to get other opinions, right? When possible. You may be constrained in your circumstance and say, but you know what? You can go to most hospitals and they will do an examination and give you something for free, right? Yeah, you may have to sit around in the waiting room for half the day, but still. And if you need a second opinion, you go to the hospital in the town over, right? So I'm saying there are things that we can do. You might not be able to even get to a hospital. I don't know what the situation is. I'm not speaking about you specifically, Georgia, and I'm talking about in general to people, right? You'll be surprised what options you have. If you can be online today, you've got options because there's social services. Most churches, particularly the Roman Catholic churches, I know people give the churches a lot of our time. This has nothing to do with religion. Most churches are also basically a social services center, right? At least they not necessarily provide the services themselves. They can in some places, and they do, but they will certainly tell you where to get help, right? And almost all places today, at least from an American point of view, in most countries, there's social services of some kind, right? So get in touch with your local social services and explain your situation. If you're in a bad shape, they'll assign a social worker. And now you've got some resources, and the social worker can help you get out there. So many options. That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't know which of these apply to you, and I have no idea. Maybe none of them, George. I don't want to assume. The point I'm trying to make is there are options, right? As many options that we have. We simply have to be aware that there are options. This is absolutely key. Just know there are always options. No matter how much you may think there aren't options, there always are options. Always, always options. It's really amazing how much this applies. And, I've dealt with many people who've gone through real hard times, right? They've been in difficult situations and had real profoundly difficult lives. And at the time, they thought there were no options. But ask them now, like Cher, when Cher comes back, you can ask her. She's been through, oh my goodness, and just Jessica also. Um, they've been through really, really rough, tough, difficult stuff. At the time, they didn't necessarily think they were options. But ask them now, I'll tell you, oh my goodness, I had plenty of options. I just never realized, right? And part of like Cher's real growth and power and strength is that she's really taken this to heart, this idea that there are more options. And she persists in looking for and finding those options, dealing with difficult situations. She's still dealing with some difficult situations, now not of her own doing, of course, just life and circumstance. But it's a gift now. No, it's not a big challenge. It's a gift. Why is it a gift? Because she gets to practice and apply and use all of these powerful tools that she's acquired doing Way-of-Impeccability and some of the other programs also. Very, very powerful. Yes, exactly, sure. There's always an option. There's always an option. So if you don't succeed on the phone, you try laptop. And as I say that, oh, sir, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, now I can.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
You loud and clear as well. Wonderful. See, so what option did you choose to get the sound working?
Yeah, what did I have to do? Well, I had to close down. I was trying to run Facebook and the Zoom at the same time, and
there you go.
for whatever reason, it just didn't want me to do that today. It's like, okay, so
so you can use Facebook on the other device, though. That one.
yeah, but it's like taking up so much, whatever you call it, the internet.
Bandwidth.
Yeah, there you go, bandwidth. That it's just ridiculous because CJ's doing his stuff too.
Yeah. All right, brilliant. So yeah, Facebook is a big resource hog. It does that. All right. So I was talking about trust. And like in Georgia's situation, it seems like this is a big issue of trust here, right? So yes, this came, as a comment when I was talking about change, the need for change, and say, yeah, but but what if you tried something and it didn't work and it had a negative effect, and now you want to do it again, right? We do have a naughty grin. Yes.
Yeah.
What did I do? Oh, not a naughty grin. Oh, I didn't see your exclamation. We have a naughty. I don't know what the naughty was, but okay. I'm not sure. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll own it, Norma. No problem. Yeah, both Joe and I can be very naughty here. And I know somebody, Ms. Boswell, who can also be very naughty. So, but anyway, I wanted to talk about trust and trust as it relates to critical thinking. Yes. Now,
yes.
So what exactly do we mean by critical thinking? And why don't I use this term, you may say? Because, we spoke about this a little bit before, so I'm just going to recap here, right? Everything that we do in Way of Impeccability, and well, in this course too, in the anxiety and worry, because it's all connected. Everything is about critical thinking. But why don't I like this term? Because, well, critical thinking puts things only in the mind, which to me, if we really want to learn to truly critical think, I'm going to use that term now and also say why I don't like to use it. If we truly want to learn to critical think in the big meta sense of it, we have to learn how to feel as well. Why? Because of the feeling and belief loop, right? Which is a separate little program. It's a very small one, but super powerful. It's that it goes into detail between the link between feelings and beliefs and how one causes the other. And then they cause it in reverse and they start reinforcing each other. And you end up in this infinity loop of you absolutely trust what you believe because you feel it, right? And then you trust your feelings. Why? Because, well, there's a belief. This is why. So they reinforce each other and they feed off each other. So if we don't learn this and we only have critical thinking like in a mental point of view, And all of that thinking is going to end up being corrupted and for nothing, because it will get distorted by the feeling and belief. So if we really want to get to a point where we get to have awareness, discernment, and understanding, then that's where we're going to need to learn to feel appropriately as well. In other words, we need mood management. And in order to have mood management, we need association management, right? And emphasis management. Because if things are misassociated and poorly associated, like my example earlier, this person who had the phobia with crossing the threshold, they have threshold associated with fear and pain and spiders and God knows what all. They don't even remember this. So there's an inappropriate association. So in order to absolutely think cleanly and purely, we need to have the other stuff sorted as well. Yes, does that make sense? Sure.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you were talking to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, since you, I mean, I'm speaking to everybody. Yes, George, you can.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were still, kind of more or less talking with, is it Georgia? Yeah.
Georgianne.
So,
Yeah, I
yes,
was a
Georgia.
little bit. But
Sorry.
now I'm just shifting in more general because I want to touch on this. The issue seemed to be that trust is involved, and trust
Oh, yeah.
is all about. I'm now relating it back. You see, so if we go back
Well,
to this list here that we had, you see, we got to trust in remedy, but in so much of what we do, it's involved in trust. So
oh, absolutely it is.
right.
It-
So trust
it-
is all about critical thinking. Yes.
yes, but I think it's really interesting. It's the first time, honestly, I've ever heard you say that you're not fond of the term critical thinking.
Right.
And it was a term that I had not legitimately,
Right.
I did not hear it until I was in college.
Right.
And I took college as a non-trad student. So we're
Right.
talking in my 40s.
Yes. Wow. So,
Yeah,
and again, you see, the term critical thinking has a lot of baggage to it.
it does. It
It
really
has
does.
this intellectual connotation, and that's what I was saying. It's all up in
Mhm.
the head, and you kind of get lost, and you lose the connection to your feelings and also to your beliefs. Now, our beliefs
Right.
are always logical and rational, and sometimes we know this, and they still give us value. So beliefs gets very complicated and tricky. But if we only focus on critical thinking, especially in the way it's sort of out there, in that college level, this really
Mhm.
becomes about criticism to the most extent.
It
And I want
does.
to avoid that too, right? So to be a critical thinker doesn't mean I go and be all snarky and say, well, whatever, like, what were you thinking doing this and all? No, that's not what critical thinking is meant to be. So the term is corrupted. That's why I don't use it. For me, another term for critical thinking is impeccability. This is
That's a
it.
good one too.
Well,
Yeah.
because if
Yeah.
I'm impeccable, I'm being thorough, I'm being
Yep.
disciplined, I'm being scrupulous, I'm going to be absolutely conscientious in doing all of not only my research, but what is one of our prime core tools, the two fundamental tools, thinking things through
I,
to the end.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. That's,
Thank
and
you.
when you started talking about this, that's what popped into my head.
Exactly.
Um,
Critical thinking, step number one.
yes, yeah,
Critical
I
thinking,
think it
step
all through.
number two is to get multiple perspectives. Just in that tool alone, there is critical thinking, right?
Yeah,
Because it's not
yeah,
just okay, we'll get a perspective shifting. Okay,
uh-huh,
I go from black to white. Wow, wonderful, a perspective shifted. That's not critical thinking. Why? Because you're missing out on all the colors, right? So this is really huge. Perspective shifting to multiple. The fact that I add the multiple means that I'm critically thinking. I'm aware that there's more to it, right? I'm thinking it all the way through and looking at it from all the perspectives. I'm doing
right,
that I can do. Plus,
right.
being thorough, I'm being deliberate, I'm being conscientious, I'm being patient. And sometimes, part of my critical thinking involves discipline and forbearance.
Mm-hmm. Well, plus it also takes away that idea that it's somebody else's responsibility to fix this.
Precisely,
Somebody else has
precisely,
the answer.
precisely. And
It's
again,
let's be honest, it's on us.
exactly. So we get back to our previous slides here, right? Assuming a
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. This is it. Critical thinking, make time. Well, if you don't make time, isn't that now you're thinking a bit flawed? Well, how on earth are you going to figure this out? How on earth are you going to deal with it? How on earth are you going to resolve it if you don't make time? Well, duh, it's critical thinking right there, right? So making the effort, same thing, it's duh. So, part of Wave Impeccability, we love this concept of duh, right? And I say so often, my job is really just in making the obvious obvious. That's all.
Mhm.
And this is part of critical thinking, is getting to that point where things are obvious, which means that you've got awareness and you've got a discernment and you have the understanding where it is simple and obvious, right? So critical
Right.
thinking gets us to that point. So yes, I'm only using critical thinking because, you brought this term up. It's, something that's become pertinent and relevant in your life. But
Uh-huh.
you see why I avoid it, right? Because
Yeah.
there's much better ways to go about it. Rather than thinking of critical thinking, which makes this thing all intellectual. I'm very, I don't want to say I'm anti-intellectual, but please don't call me an intellectual. This is not what because that's
Right.
in the head. No, 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 no. I may sound that way, but to me, being intellectual is kind of bullshit. Sorry to say, but it is. Why? Because it's all about this idea that I understand it and I get it, but I don't really. Why? Because I don't apply it. Right? I don't make the effort. Yes, I don't honor that awareness through application. Yes,
Right. Right. See,
it's
to me,
pointless.
intellectual, it just says that
Exactly,
you think
exactly,
you're all knowing, but you're not.
exactly,
You don't.
exactly, exactly. You may understand psychology, Mr. Psychology Professor, right? But your life is a mess. So, you may get it, you may be able to teach the theory of it, but you don't apply it. So to me, that's meaningless. Without application, it's all meaningless. So
Yeah.
this is the problem with critical thinking. It gets people a little bit too up in their heads and they get disconnected from their feelings, from the application, from the doing of it. And this is why you've never heard me use that term and I stay far away from it.
Yeah.
However, there are times and places where, well, even there. Okay, so this came up in the context of programming, right? So, back in the day, I studied computer science when I was at university. Now, I was only there for a short time, well, relatively for a whole year, but I left because I was too sad and disappointed at there's no real learning. But nonetheless, it was still interesting, still a valuable experience, right? I mean, I had learned more on my own than what I was getting at university. But anyway, so I studied computer science. This was in 1981, right? So computers were a new thing. They didn't even have PCs back then, right? So the computer science, we still had the big mainframe, that took up half the wing of the thing there, and you had to.
Yeah. 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 I remember those.
So a punch card was something about the size of an envelope, and
Yep.
right, you know this too. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So in the punch card, you had to write your program, then you submitted it to the big computer, and it spat out these punch cards, which were literally this piece of cardboard that had holes punched into it, right?
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
and that was your program. Now,
Yep. And the job was called Meg Card Operator.
exactly. I mean, somebody had a job and then they'd feed this into the computer and then you would run your program, right? This
Yeah.
was
Yep.
how you entered the computer. There were no keyboards back then. That was just, it wasn't the thing, right? It's too
Right.
fantastic to realize, wow, there was no keyboards, right? Some machine had to punch these holes and that was the effect of you punching. Anyway,
Yes.
now though. So you came there and of course you've probably seen this in some old movies. You get the helpless student and they're walking with a stack of punch cards and somebody bumps into them and all their punch cards go flying. And of course, well, that's the end of your thing. You have to start all over again because there's no way to know which one comes in which order, right? Because unless you can read punch card machine code, you have no way of knowing. Anyway, so now you feed all of them in, right? If you make one single mistake, your program doesn't work. Right? You got literally one comma out of place. That's it. That's it. So it doesn't work, and you have to start all over again. Right? Huh? You remember this?
Yep. I do.
So talking about so the point I want to make is right. So you think, oh my boy, that would be an absolute place for where critical thinking comes really into it because you have to be really precise in all this. Well, you can have as much critical thinking as you like. If you don't have patience in your body, if you don't feel it, if you don't have determination, if you don't feel thorough and have this feeling of wanting to be thorough and disciplined and patient, your patience alone is going to make it impossible to be a programmer. At least I should say your impatience or your lack of patience. So that's why I'm not keen on critical thinking. You can have the most brilliantly genius program mind. You don't have any patience, forget it. You won't be able to use your brilliance. Yes?
Yes.
My voice keeps changing, so. Oh, you're talking to me. I'm not sure why, Norma. Maybe I just get happy and excited. I don't. That's
It
fine.
does. Yeah. He's got a lot of inflections.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? I don't know. Hold on 1 second. Let me see something else here. Maybe, turn off music. It may be that some extra. I have some music, but I don't think you can hear the music, but I can hear it. It's very soft. I always like to have music going on. Yeah, music is good, but it may affect the microphone because I'm using the microphone on the camera. My headset microphone decided to give up the ghost, so that may be why. But anyway, I'll keep it interesting, right, Norma? It may just be that I get excited. That's all. I don't know. Anyway, so this point that I'm making, that we have to be very careful of getting enamored with thinking. Thinking alone thinking is powerful, yes, but thinking alone can be, you can have the best thinking and the most wonderful thinking, but on its own, it can be wasted because you need the supporting emotional clarity, emotional discipline, emotional fortitude, and also emotional awareness to be able to do this, because the emotions affect the thinking, they affect our beliefs. It's a very profound connectivity, right? I mean, if we feel something strongly, we kind of believe it to be true. That's not necessarily so. Take the child or the monster in the room, right? It's my classic example here, but I'm just speaking in general now. You know this example, right? You come into the room and the kid's all terrified. What's wrong? Well, there's a monster under the bed. Now, you know there's no monster, but to the kid, the monster is real. Why? Because they feel fear. What happened in that moment? They felt fear for whatever, who knows what reason, right? But so they need a reason to feel the fear, to justify it, to legitimize it. So, well, there must be a monster, right? It's that supposed to obvious logic, right? And it's the wrong kind of obvious logic. So they jump to a conclusion, or they assign a reason for the feeling. Yes. And now this feeling, this belief becomes supported by the feeling. Well, I'm afraid, and there's a monster. That doesn't matter that I created the monster, but now I believe that there is a monster. I believe my own creation. Why? Because I feel the fear. It must be real. Yeah. See, so this is where we need to have this discipline. Now we can use our critical thinking to deal with our feelings and our belief, but they all work together. We can't isolate them all. That's the point that I'm trying to make, right? So you need to have not only, make sure your logic is valid, but make sure that your logic and your reason isn't affected by just laziness, not thinking through things to the end, for instance, or not wanting to perspective shift, right? It's very critical, right? So impeccability, very key, because you're not going to be lazy. And then, of course, too, you're going to learn mood management. So if you don't have mood management, and association management is really, really critical tools as part of impeccability, right? Then it's not going to happen. In addition to your thoroughness, your scrupulousness, and most important, your conscience. Yes, if you have this ability to step in over that line and disregard your conscience, well, sorry, that's not an ability you want. It's a very terrible ability. But that means that you can do things that you believe to be wrong. This is going to profoundly cost you. This is the most terrible possible thinking and abuse of your feelings and going against yourself. It's the worst thing you can ever do. And people pay incredible prices for this transgression. And some of them get comfortable on that line and they don't even realize that they're paying the price. It's a really sad business. So when it comes to thinking and being, right? Because thinking is only a part of being, right, sure? It's not all of it.
Yes.
Right. Feeling is likewise a part of being. It's not all of it. Yes.
No, we have to have both. That's why it's important for the mind, body, and spirit connection.
Correct. And we also have believing, for instance, as a third, right? So,
Yep.
belief being a combination of feeling and thinking. So there's many aspects to this, and all of the tools of Way of Impeccability, all of them are geared towards having that balance and having that clarity of all of them. So we could say that, every single aspect is applying critical thinking, critical feeling, if you want to add this, and critical believing. We'll have it. We're going to part this. But, critical is such a negative term. I rather want to say discerning rather than critical. That's really what they're trying to mean, is to, instead of critical thinking, is really discernment, is it not?
I like that. I like that analogy. I do. I
Yeah,
do
I
like critical feeling, but for to me, when I think critical, I'm thinking important, most
Right.
important.
Right.
You
So yes. So now when we look at this from the point of view of when I say discernment, yes, discernment is important to me, and I'm focusing on what is important. And this is now we can go back to clarity of intent to get this focus on critical as in really super important, as in essential thinking. Yes. So
Uh-huh.
clarity of intent. This is it. So I rather would use the term essential thinking. Yes.
No, the essential thinking
It's
sounds good.
critical, but
Essential feeling, essential thinking. Yeah, that works for me.
there's so much baggage with this term critical thinking. It's almost become sort of like a badge of honor for some people in a way. Oh, you've got to be a critical thinker. Yes, be an essential thinker, but also be an essential feeler, be a discerner, and make sure that your discernment leads to actual awareness. You can find some people with discernment and they can really unravel things and get to the fine point, but they don't actually translate it into awareness. They just go down into that granular detail and that's it. That's the end of it. They haven't really added to their awareness. Plus, they don't actually come to understanding, even though they've managed to really fine tune and boil something down to the finest granularity. Fantastic. But if you don't use it to really understand and connect to the moreness out there, if you don't conceptualize it, now you're wasting your time. So this is
Yes.
why, your dictionary of power is a list of conceptions. This is a really, really, really big deal. This is very cool. So
Yeah.
character, in other words, you can be the best critical thinker that you could possibly be. But if your character is lacking, forget about it. Yeah. You're going to be a critical,
Absolutely.
scientist or researcher, programmer, or whatever, in fields typically where critical thinking is very valued and highly valued. And you see this all the time, right?
Yeah.
Where people have these skills, but they struggle and they get into all sorts of trouble. Because why? Because they didn't have character. They didn't have simple things, patience, discipline, mood management, energy management, association management, and all the other managements. I mean, the tools list is very long, right? So this is very, very, very key. So we want to have more tools than just thinking tools. Very, very powerful. And also we want to be careful with our thinking tools. Most critical thinking that I've seen, they miss the boat by quite a long way because, well, trust is an acknowledgement of possibility. You really have to be aware of this. And that's a very good quote there, by
Yeah.
very
It
powerful.
is. It is.
Right. So this is it. And the possibility is that when we're trusting, there's a possibility for positive and negative, right? Not just one
Yeah.
or the other. So this is a very, very powerful thing. And that's where anxiety and worry is problematic, right? Because the worry pots, they, as I call them, sorry, worry pots, if you're one of them out there, I might be a bit harsh on you, but with good reason. Because you're insisting only on negative possibility. Why?
Mhm.
Why? Why can't there be positive possibility, right? So it's possibility. Trust is the acknowledgement of possibility, not just risk. Yes, there's a risk
Right.
of positive happening. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Now think about that one for a
I was
while.
just thinking about, the risk of trusting.
Right. Exactly. Wow. Now let's get started. Oh, where was the session that I wanted to do today? Oh, I must have skipped over it. Oh, yeah. Willingness to make time and apply effort. Yeah. Yeah. So this is kind of our focus today. Yes. Will you read that for me, please? Sure. I need to take
Oh,
care
okay.
of something real quick. So
Yeah.
if you
All
finish
right.
before I come, I don't know, just talk nonsense for a while.
Okay. I talk nonsense. Right. No. Okay. Willingness to make time and apply effort. So the willingness to make time and apply effort, this needs to be repeated. It's all we require of you as a participant, this commitment of time and effort. If you do, you'll get results. Just by being here, you've already demonstrated your self-love and your commitment to your moreness and for improving your life and for connecting to your real self. Willingness to make time and apply effort. It does need to be repeated several times. Hurry up, Sil. We'll be back after this commercial break from our sponsor. No, I was just saying we're going to be back after this commercial break from our sponsor.
There you go. There you go. We'll call our sponsors ADU, right? That sounds like a name for ADU Incorporated, right?
Oh, there we go.
ADU Incorporated. This sounds like it could be a company name. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And I do agree with your statement that the willingness to make time and apply effort must be repeated. It's not even it's a need, yes, but for me, it's a must.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's many times I have to remind myself, just keep going, one foot in front of the other, regardless.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And you know, this willingness to make time and apply effort. A good example.
But consistently.
Right. Say again, sir?
But consistently. I got into, okay, so I got into when I first started this. Yes, I was making the time and effort, but I wasn't doing it with consistency.
Exactly.
And I fell through the cracks. There were things that fell through.
Yeah.
Well, then later on, I found out what fell through and why. So to me, that's an important piece just to share that out there.
Yeah. Wow. Really cool point. Really, really cool point. Willingness to make time and apply effort consistently. This needs to be repeated. Yes. It's all we require of you as a participant, this commitment of time and effort. If you do this, you'll get results. I cannot emphasize this enough, right? There's not a magic answer that I have.
No.
Okay. And I will say, so well, yeah, but hang on, so you're asking us to do your courses, or you're saying the course can help or whatever. Well, not really asking you to do the course, but yes, I'm saying the course will help. And so does that imply you have the answer? It might do so for most people, but actually, the way that I recommend you do the courses, it's not about the answer being there, it's about your doing of it. There's a big doing involved, right? You do the RepeatBacks, you do the takeaways, you do your dictionary of power, you do the tasks and exercises, and you apply those in your daily life. For instance, you use the dictionary of power in your daily language, right? As you hear from Shirley.
Now I do. Yes.
A very simple, constant application, but you've got to do this. And like Sir says, you've got to do it consistently. Now, it's the doing that results in the resolution. There's where the solution lies, in the doing. There's a magic that happens in our brain, and it's all about how the brain works. The brain is really, really very magical in this, that. When we start to focus on resolution and application, you fire up the nodes in the brains through that emphasis. And those nodes connect to other nodes, and then they create even newer nodes, and they grow nodes, and you discover and learn things that you never were aware of before, right? So this is how the brain works. It is through the doing that you come to resolution. It's not in finding an answer at the end of the course. No. Some people never finish the courses. Why? Because they don't need to. Because through the doing, they found what they needed to. I don't have to go to the end to get it. There's no magic answer at the end. No, it's just me being thorough, right? And sometimes we go through a course and then it's like, well, that was really cool. That was really huge. But, well, and then we do it again. And it's like, oh, my goodness, I didn't get that the first time. Oh, my goodness, now I understand. Oh, right, sure. I teach a little bit, but sir, it's not just to you. Anybody, or at least so far, everyone we've come back to different modules and courses, and some have done the whole thing over again, and even more than
Right.
one. And there's always more. This is profound. Why? Because the moreness
Every
comes.
time,
Say again, sir?
every time. Oh, I said every time. You know, I took
Exactly.
just any one of the courses. I'm just gonna pull out one. Okay, like the PSP. I took the original course. I read the book.
Right.
Not all of it was connecting until the situation arose. And now it's starting to all connect.
Exactly.
And as I go through it,
Exactly.
I'm getting even more information
Exactly.
as I keep applying a lot of these,
Exactly.
my power conceptions. So
Exactly.
things are shifting.
Exactly.
Here's something I always like to think of. If it doesn't, you know how they say it, that, what's that expression? Try, and again, or something to that effect.
Yes.
Well,
First you
when
don't
you said
succeed,
that-
try.
right. When you said that your answer is in the doing of application, it absolutely is, because if it doesn't work, we always have another alternative. We always have another option, just like you were talking about before.
Right.
We can always look at other perspectives, and we
Right.
can keep going until we know that we have exhausted all of our effort and anything that's possible. And at that point, what do? We step into our courage and we ask somebody, hey, I need a little help here because I'm not coming to the answer that I need. I'm not I'm not finding my resolution. So either way, it's a win. You don't lose anything. Either way, it's a win.
So she mentioned PSP. I know what she's talking about, but for those of you who don't, PSP stands for the psychology of the superiority paradigm, right?
Oh,
And it's
sorry.
based on my book, The Psychology of Bullshit, formerly known as Out BS. So I changed the title, just, you got to change for the times and update a little bit. So this is the program. It's got some cartoons on because it's a very serious program, but, we want to make it a little bit easier. But anyway.
You know what? Read the book first. Read the book. Get the book, read the book. It's on Amazon. I'm telling you, it is well worth every penny you spend for it. Well worth it.
There we go. See, yes, I know it from our sponsor.
Yeah, there we go. There's your sponsor. Now back to our programming.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Now, I mean, I do recommend reading the book also, not because you're dealing with bullshit, but because it's a book on psychology, and it's a course on its own, and that really involves a deep understanding of our core psychology. Now, so it comes back to worrying and anxiety. It's all connected.
Yes, it does.
Connected. Everything is connected. It's really profound.
Yep.
So when we look at anxiety and worry, we realize, why are we anxious? And why is it that we are bothered? What are our deeper motivations? What's underlying all of this? And we come to realize, oh, you know what? I'm worried that I'm going to look bad.
Yep. Where's that come from?
Isn't this just, prime bullshit? And well, when we get to, the superiority paradigm, this is when that particular bullshit has run away with itself. And get the narcissists, or as I call them in the book, or we call them in the book, as the bullshitter manipulator narcissist, right? It's like an extreme version of this, BMNs for short, right?
Yes.
This is a very big deal when we see this and when we look at this. So the point I want to make is, we aren't all BMNs. However, when we look at the BMN and we study them, they are so egregious. They are such an extreme of psychology that it's easy to recognize all of these things in it, because it's really out there. It's in the extremes. It's always easy to recognize extremes. And when we look at that, we can say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can see a little bit of that in me. And so, because now you're acutely aware of something, for instance, like egregiousness or preposterousness or obfuscation or whatever the particular thing may be. Yeah, I do a little bit of that. So you get to recognize something in you that's very subtle and very small that you would not otherwise have recognized if you're looking at the extreme example, right? Plus, the most major point of this is it is a paradigm, which means it's pervasive. It's the thing that is operating all around us. To understand that, means you can unhook from the bullshit paradigm, which is really what it is, a superiority paradigm. You know, it's all about hierarchy and dominance and picking on each other. It's like, oh my goodness, you know, what a terrible bloody paradigm. Thank you very much. You know, you want to go and be an animal and live this way, fine. Okay, but you know, we are more than that. We can live in other paradigms, like a collaborative paradigm or a play paradigm or an art paradigm and many other paradigms, right?
Mhm.
You get to choose them, but you won't really be able to unhook if you don't fully know why the prevailing paradigm cannot work. Not that doesn't work, but cannot. Yes, doesn't work, we still can cling to it because, well, they're just not doing it properly. So we keep doing it thinking that, well, I just need to do it properly and then maybe it'll work. No, once you realize it cannot work, that no matter how thoroughly and properly and appropriately and well you apply this particular paradigm, there's no chance of it working. Then you can let it go, because this is a very deep, deep, deep part of our psychology. Yes, and it's very intimately connected to anxiety and worry. Yes,
Yes, it is.
this is what is prevalent in the superiority paradigm. Everything you always worried about, your survival, your position, your status, your hierarchy, and it's like, oh man, it's terrible. So yeah, there's a
Mhm.
good reason for doing that. Okay. So we're actually at the end of module 1, which is pretty cool, but I wanted to just go over these tasks and exercises here real quick, right? So
Yeah,
you
there's
see now,
always important.
so right here, there's actually 3 slides of tasks and exercises, and they were, you know, at the end of every section, you see, assuming and accepting responsibility, you've got tasks and exercises. Can someone
Mhm.
else really fix you?
Nope.
Nope,
Nope.
nope,
Nope.
nope, nope. And you know, you've tried, right?
Yes, I have. I've spent several $1,000s on that.
Yeah. So, you know, yes, I'm in the life change, life coaching business, you know, because of, for want of a better word, I said, well, I'll make the obvious. Obvious is not really, what would that be as a noun? I'm an obvious awareness maker. It doesn't really work, right? So I have to say I'm a life coach, right? Or facilitator, but facilitator also can be used in kind of nonsense ways. So, all right, well, but as a life coach, I don't fix you. I have no interest in fixing you. I'll give you the tools with which you can learn to fix yourself. Yes, this I am very interested in, right? But I
Mhm.
cannot fix you no matter how much I may think I can fix you. Anybody who tells you they can fix you, it's time to go get lost, right? You're wasting your time, right? It's a myth. It's a myth. Only you can, right?
Kind of like a regular coach for a sport. Just pick a sport.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
they
Exactly.
can't make you play the game, and they can't improve your game. They can't
Exactly.
do any of that.
Exactly.
All they can
Exactly.
do is encourage and provide tools
Exactly.
and,
Right.
some know-how, some resources, and say,
Exactly.
it's up to
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. You know, strategies, awarenesses, understandings,
Mhm.
perceptions, you know, different ways of looking at it. These are
Right,
all tools. They're not answers, they're tools, right?
right.
Now, some will get focused on the detail of it. And I tend to focus on the abstract, the overview, so that you don't only learn to do that particular thing, you learn how to use the abstract quality that will allow you to do it in all instances. A very simple example is when you learn to drive a car. You learned to drive a car. You didn't learn to drive a Honda or a Kia or a Chevrolet or a Ford or whatever, right? You learned to
Huh?
drive a car. So this is abstract, because then you get into the, well, you know, this one's got the gear lever on the left, this one's got the right, this one's got it down on the next to me here. So what? You know, it's the same thing. You're not applying, shifting this lever, right? Which some people do learn. They drive a particular car. It's a fascinating thing. So when we learn to abstract, it gives us the ability to apply our skills in more than one instance, right? So like we were talking about this with critical thinking, this is exactly why I'm a little bit reluctant to use that term, because they tend to be focused on the particulars of the situation and they don't focus on abstract thinking, right? Because abstract thinking may even be, in some contexts, be seen as oppositional to critical thinking when it's not, right? So,
Right,
but when you learn to apply your remedy, so that I don't just learn to build my house on lot number 33, no, I learn
right.
to build houses, I learn to build dwellings, I learn to build structures. See, well, I can build a house if I've learned to build structures, dwellings, you know, then I can build any structure. So this is
Mhm.
very powerful, right? So we want to learn to be engineers and architects, not just somebody who can do one specific thing. Well, I learned to build this house on this land. No, sorry, thank you very much. We want more than that, right? This empowers us, in other words, when we do. All right, so our next task and remedy is, what do you do if you don't really know what the remedies to apply? Well, sorry, what remedies to apply when it comes to resolving what you need to deal with? Oh, that's a really cool question. Wow. What do
That's
you
when you
do?
ask for help.
Yeah.
You muster up your courage and you say, I need a little help. Here's my situation.
Yeah, I'm stuck. I'm stuck.
That's what I do. Yeah, I'm stuck.
Yeah. So the one thing that I will promise, I won't promise you remedy. I won't promise you advice. I won't promise you answers. But
If
what
he
I
means
can
that.
promise you, well, because it's impossible to be that arrogant to say I know your situation inside out. Only you can. I
Nope.
can promise you tools, yes. But what else that I can promise me personally, I can promise you alternative perspectives. This, I have a great skill in finding different perspectives. I practice
He
this
does.
all my life. So,
He's
and
the
that's all we need sometimes. Holy crap, I never thought of looking at it from this angle. Yes.
But that comes from something else that I've noticed that you practice religiously, Sil, and I use that word.
With a great deal of
Here.
license.
You use capital H, hearing.
Yes. Yes.
You hear. You don't just listen. You're
Yeah.
not mindless. Because the questions that you have asked me when I've come and said, I don't get this, I don't understand, I'm stuck, have all come from hearing
Yes.
what I'm asking.
Yes.
But I'm not hearing myself. So that's a gift in itself.
Yes. Yes. And also, when we practice capital H hearing, things will come at us that are really magical. Remember Monday, we were going through and we were discussing things and going over takeaways, and we were just doing what we were doing, right? We were deep into it. And all of a sudden, you had a little come up takeaway, a little thing that bubbled up inside you. What was that again?
Yeah.
You said just this one little thing.
I don't remember now, Phil.
You said, well, I have to cue you a little bit. You said, it's all my fault. And then you said, where did that
that's
come
right.
from?
Right. Yeah, the whole thing about
Right,
thinking that what's going on now was my fault.
Right. But let me just put it in context, right? So we're deep in a discussion here, and it had nothing to do with fault, right?
Right.
Nothing. And all of a sudden, this thought bubbles up in you, and you said to me, "Oh, I just had this thought come up in me, and it's like it's all my fault." And so, where did that come from? And then we were about to continue, and we may even have continued for a little bit. But I said, "Oh, wait a second, right?" And now you're talking about capital H hearing.
Yes.
I heard what you said. Not
Yep.
just words, but I heard it in the greater, bigger context. I said, man, what a gift. And you were like, well, maybe not. Maybe I exaggerate a little bit, but at first it wasn't clearly obvious what I meant when I said it was a gift, because thought had come up in response to an intent you had set, which was to understand a particular circumstance that's at play in your life, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
this was a way of understanding it. It was like wow, okay. When it was applied as a consequence of your intent, it changed everything dramatically. It got you to see things in a different way. You got to have real discernment, real understanding. It was very profound. But this is the point of hearing. You're not just listening to the words, you're listening to more, you're listening to what's not said, you're listening to the greater context. I was also listening to your intents. Yes. So when I had that, that connectivity just jumped out right at me. It's like, wow, okay. I mean, otherwise it could just have been, some random thought popping up. But in connection to as a result of your intent that you said, it was a profoundly magical, beautiful, wonderful, awesome thing. Yes. It was really, really cool.
It was.
So this is the power of capital H hearing. Now I have this whole, as you know, the big program on capital H hearing. It's a huge, big, massive program. It's a big deal. But boy, if you in any way want to really leverage your life to a different place, well, there you go. Learn capital H hearing. It's a skill. It's a skill that has to be learned, right?
It is
perspective shifting, and you have to practice it. What was that word that you said? When it comes to doing an application, applying?
Consistency.
Exactly. It's something you have to do consistently to keep.
It also teaches you to hear yourself.
Yeah.
Too many times we're listening to other people, but how often do we listen to me. I'm still learning to hear myself.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's big. It's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah. So this, with helping, we have to be very careful. We are so taught that help. This is the point and purpose of everything. This is what you need to do in life, and this is the most brilliant and magical thing. Well, sad to say, and here we get philosophy of opposite coming into play. Helping can be very detrimental, right?
Mhm.
So we have to be very, very careful with helping. I prefer to assist because typically, and this next exercise, if somebody's coming, like for instance, I'm the surgeon, and I say, you know what, I need some help here, right? Then I'll bring in another surgeon who will actually also be sticking his fingers inside there in the scalpel and doing whatever the stuff the surgeons do, right? Now we are doing this thing together, and they may end up doing most of it because they're really helping me and I stuck, I don't know. However, I said, I could use some assistance here, or somebody who realizes when I said help that I don't really want you to come and do it for me because then I'm not going to learn, but I want some assistance so that I can figure out. So now the other surgeon comes in, but they don't pick up a scalpel or anything, or it's just a nurse, and they assist you by providing you perspectives, by providing you tools, by saying, well, what about this? Have you thought about this? Or they maybe demonstrate and say, okay, now you do it. See, they don't do it for you. Help sometimes, or unfortunately, mostly ends up with somebody doing it for you, which doesn't really help you, right? But when they assist you, they are enabling you to do the thing for yourself, right? Which you may not have been able to do on your own, but with assistance, you can. So it's
Yes.
very, very key. And this is when we get stuck and we don't know what to do.
Mhm.
Look for assistance rather than help. Yeah. Very
Another
important.
big C word is collaboration. So yes,
Exactly.
there is strength and power in collaboration.
Exactly. 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 What are your responsibility when it comes to you helping you? Norma, Georgianne, let me ask you guys if you're still here, if I haven't put you to sleep already. Yeah? What's your responsibilities when it comes to you helping you? You know what it is, sure. I mean, you do this every
Yep.
day.
So I'm not going to answer. I think our two guests need to as well.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, they may be gone already. We have no way of knowing if they're still online or not.
That's true. I don't have Facebook open, so I can't see.
Yeah. I mean, I see the comments there, but it takes 30 seconds for them to hear me, and then they got to type it out. So there's always a delay. So all right. So this is very important just to be aware that at least there that in that question it implies there is a responsibility that you have towards yourself when it comes to helping yourself.
Right.
Right. If you are not dependent on yourself as the principal agent of remedy, what happens? What happens when you're dependent on somebody else and that they are not immediately available? Joanne's still listening. Brilliant.
That is disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
That ends in disaster.
Yeah. That's the other problem, right? If we have this mindset that, well, I get help and I get a coach, I get a guru, whatever, and then they start giving you all the answers. And then you get into a situation where they're not immediately available. And then, like Sure says, then you have disaster because you've actually learned not to be able to do things for yourself. Now, let me give or let me bring up a nice example here. And this is, for instance, in marriage. Yes, we go along, we're happily married, and well, hubby is taking care of all the bills, and he's paying the insurance, and he's doing all the stuff. Well, then hubby decides, well, it's time that I got to move on and go elsewhere, and you're on your own now, girl. And then what happens?
Yeah. You have no idea what you're supposed to do. That happened to me after my husband died. I mean, I had some skills, but then I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do now.
Exactly. Why? Because somebody was doing it for you.
Exactly. All of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And you were dependent on them. And then when they weren't available, it was chaos. It was a mess. Right? So yeah. So be careful when people are doing things for you. It makes you dependent. In other words, we don't realize this. We think, oh, this is really nice. Well, we don't realize that we are getting inadvertent dependency. Now, BMNs will do this on purpose, right? This is why, the book and the PSP course is so potent. because they will deliberately do things for you. And they will say, oh, look how nice I am, and they'll get all the shine. Meanwhile, they're just doing it so they can control you, make you
Right.
dependent.
It
So
wrecks you.
yeah, so there's a dark side to it, but in your case, Larry wasn't doing it. He was doing it from the goodness of his heart, and it's just the
Yeah.
way marriages go. You do this, I do this, and
Yep.
but you
Yep.
have to be really pay attention, right? So this is for me. I always was bothered by this from a male female point of view. That guys took on this. They thought it was their sort of male responsibility to do things for women. And it's like all you're doing is you're depriving them of the opportunity to learn it for themselves, and you're making them dependent. And this is not love. This doesn't make you a good man. This makes you a terrible man. Sorry, I know your motivations are good, but it's profound, inappropriate application of goodness.
Yeah.
Be competent, people. Be competent. Learn for yourself. Now, fine, we can't learn everything. And I have to trust that, hey, when it comes to brain surgery, okay, you're the specialist in this. But when it comes to the things in life in general, be competent. Rely on yourself as much as you can. Yeah. Don't be dependent. Don't be dependent. Yeah. If you don't develop or learn your own tools of change, how do you deal with issues and situations when you're on your own? That's it. You can't. You need your own tools of change. Your own, not somebody else's. Share thoughts on the list of responsibilities and maybe add some of your own. That's an interesting idea, yeah. I'm sure. So let's go back to that list of responsibilities, right? So anything to add to this, or any comments or on any of these points here?
Okay, well, let me see. Responsibilities, making time, making effort. I came in a little bit after this. Honoring awareness. Freedom of self-honesty, yes. Acceptance of change. Trust. I love trust of remedy.
Yes.
I would have to add consistency. That has to be in there.
Yes,
It truly does.
yes.
Collaboration or courage.
Yes.
The courage to accept the responsibility is it
Yes.
to assume and accept it.
Yeah.
To me, for me, has been key. It's one thing to say, well, yes, I can accept that I'm responsible, but to really, truly accept that, what, I had a role in some of this. I bought into some of the bullshit, that's where it started to really shift for me, is being able to accept that. But I believe acceptance is courage. It takes a lot of courage to be accepting.
Yes. Consistency, courage. You had another C word.
Courage. And collaboration.
Collaboration. There we go. That triple
We'll resolve the conundrum.
Triple C.
There we go.
Yeah. Consistency, courage, and collaboration. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yes. Very cool. Georgianne, Norma, you have any you wish to add to this list? And I'll add you in here. This all my programs are living programs. All my courses, they alive. And they don't just stay.
I know.
Right? I keep adding in. Somebody has something to add like this. I mean, what a great addition to that list. Too brilliant, right? Consistency, courage, collaboration. These are responsibilities. It's a responsibility. This is what Sher is saying. He is saying, what I personally need to assume and accept as a responsibility is the responsibility to be consistent, the responsibility to be courageous when needed, and the responsibility to collaborate. Not just, oh, hey, collaboration is a good idea. Sher is saying it's our responsibility to collaborate. Holy moly, what a profound point she's making, yes?
Yes.
So,
thank you.
Georgianne, Norma, if you have something to add here, please just type it in there, or anybody, right? And again, you don't have to do this now during the live, because if you're watching this, yes, you're watching the replay. So I just want to make a point here for maybe some people don't know this. If you watch the replay and you get to this point where we're at now, we an hour 23 into this, right? And you type, when I ask what do you want to add, and you start typing on the comment, Facebook is going to put that you typed this at 1:23 into the live. So then I can go back to the replay and I can slide fast forward to 123 and say, oh, that's what they're talking about. Ah, okay. And then I can, take it on. Now, in this case, it's fairly obvious. I'll know what I'm doing, but then I can add it in, you see. So whenever you comment, when you're watching it, it's like you are commenting live, right? Even though I'm not there listening, I can go and see what I was talking about, what your comment replies to. It's a very cool feature and that Facebook has added when watching the replay, right? Your comment gets that.
Cool. Yeah.
Which treats it as a live comment. It's really, really cool. It's really,
They
really.
hired somebody that was thinking, you mean?
Say that again?
I said they hired somebody that was thinking, you mean?
Yes, for once. Yes, they did something genius. They did something genius. Yeah. So it's very cool. All right. So wow, we got lots of thoughts and exercises here. It's quite unusual, right? I think
This one was long. This one was long.
Yeah. But it's very powerful though. It's very powerful. So answer the following questions in detail as best as you can. Now, I know why you are doing this. So we are going to answer these kind of on behalf of everybody.
Okay.
Well, one second. I want to respond to George. I think the courage to try a different way and to risk. Yes, exactly.
Do something different. Be different.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
That's one of my favorites.
Yes. That's my issue. But I'm going to add this to that slide because we're talking about responsibility. Yes. So this was the question: what to add to this list, right? And it's the responsibility to do or try things differently if needed. Yes, Georgia?
Yes.
Right. So it's not necessarily Georgian's addition. Right. It's not necessarily that it's our responsibility to do things differently. It's if needed. Yes. Yeah. So it's our responsibility to have the courage, courage to do things differently if needed, right? Georgian, I'm adding in the if needed there because it's implied in your point. Yes, to try a different way. Oh, and to risk to do things differently. No, Grammarly. I want that capital D there. This is definitely that we.
I know. I have that issue too.
And to risk as needed. Yes, and again, I'll put capital R risk because we aren't just going to be blindly accepting risk, right? And have the courage that we're going to do this because we've really thought about it and we're paying attention to it, right? So this is a very big point. Georgianne, is that fair? My editorial liberties with your comment? I hope so. Yeah, Georgianne says, okay, fine. So Georgianne's addition, to have the courage to do things differently and to risk if needed. Yes, Georgianne.
I like that. I like that.
Again, if you read this comment, right, and somebody says, oh, to have the courage to do things differently and to risk if needed. Well, that's kind of on its own. It's a very broad statement. But in the context of assuming and accepting responsibility, it is profound.
Yes, it is.
It changes it. Because this is now, it shifts. Not just, I'm giving you a tip and a recommendation. I have the courage to do things differently and to risk if needed. That's okay. But when you say, this is my responsibility to do this. And,
yes. It changes everything.
This is huge. This is huge. It's why I love adding such stuff to the program. It's profound. It's extra perspectives, right? And the magic of perspectives is we don't always get it. Like I saw this when I was a kid. It was really, really eye-opening for me, right? Something would be explained to us kids, and there was, some of them didn't get it, right? And then the other kids explained to the one who didn't get it, right? And so kid A didn't get it. Then kid B said, well, maybe think of it this way. And they still didn't get it. And then kid C said, well, what about I like this? And every kid came and they did this naturally, which was too fantastic. They didn't just repeat the same thing over and over like, the adults did, right? No, they came, each one added in a different perspective to help the one who wasn't understanding. And by the time we got to kid S, they're like, oh, yes, I get it now. Right? It's amazing to me. You could watch it in progress, how they didn't get it, but they kept adding these extra perspectives added. They didn't get any one of the single perspectives, but the accumulation and them all together helped them see the big picture, right? Because they had those different perspectives, they could see the big picture. So then it all fell into place. We have to trust this. This is, again, why the consistency is so important. That kid, well, all the kids, they kept going until the kid understood. And so did the kid, because they listened to each of the other kids, right? They had that consistency of it. They didn't understand. 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 They didn't say, oh, I understand a little bit more. No, they were not understanding until it all clicked and fell into place. Yes?
Yes.
This is where the responsibility for consistency takes on, and some of the courage. And also it's a collaboration, because those kids were all collaborating, right? It's a fantastically beautiful collaboration. Oh man, I used to love it when I saw that happening. It's the most profound, wonderful, magical thing. But this is it too. This courage to do things differently and to risk, if needed or when needed. You know what, Georgianne, I actually think that it's when, not if.
I like that. Yeah, the when needed.
Yeah. Right.
I still think the whole thing overall though is good, because it helps me. I mean, I like to, you get stuck in a way of thinking without others' perspectives sometimes.
Exactly.
And for me, asking somebody, i.e. a young child here, to do something differently, not better, but different,
Exactly. Exactly.
It's not always if needed, it's a when needed.
Yes. So we go back, Georgianne, your comment is an application of what came before, right?
Yep.
So when we look at this whole module here, right? So yes, we look at investing in remedy, right? This is when you say, well, I'm investing in a remedy. I'm going to the different experts. I'm listening to what they have to say. I'm doing this course, I'm signing up with Soul for whatever. Right? Invest in remedy. Yes. So again, that's part of your responsibility. So you've done this. But here's the key point, right? That your comment, Georgianne, it's about dealing with habits. Yes. This is the thing where you need the courage to do things differently and to risk when
you're right.
The courage is to overcome your entrenched habits that that make us feel cozy and comfortable and safe, when we not necessarily are so, but we only believe that because of habit. So the courage is to overcome those habits that have locked us into our little bubbles. Yes. Very, very, very powerful. So very profound addition there. Thank you very much, Georgianne. This is why, for me, these lives, it's not me giving a lecture on something. I have no interest in this. I want it to be cooperative, collaborative. When we collaborate, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 equals more. Yes, we get more when we collaborate. We get more. It is a huge deal, collaboration. It's a huge, huge, huge deal. I love collaboration. Glad I remembered to remove the audio. I will have the audio from the slide on top playing when this one comes up. So very cool. So these will be audioless. That just is the way it is. All right. So let's look at a couple more of these tasks and exercises here. Where were we? All right. So why are you taking this course? This is very key. Anybody who's looking to do this, and I think Elizabeth was interested. She wanted to watch the videos, and maybe she asked me where can she see the other videos, and I pointed her to the tab, the guides tab, and there's a special. Well, let me show this rather than just talk about it. So, Elizabeth, this is Norma. I want to make it. Oh, that was on the previous one. All right, I don't want to go there right now, but I'll try and remember. This is roughly at 1:33. Yes. So watch this at 1:33, Elizabeth, on this video, and you'll see what I mean by the guides tab, right? So now this is on the computer, on the phone. It's going to be maybe different things all over there. But right here, you see, underneath, you've got the header up at the top here, and you've got the name of the group and all the stuff, and then it says discussion guides featured, and featured, by the way, for those just people generally, pay attention to this featured tab. In this featured tab, it's pretty much me curating all of the posts, right? And I put into here all the posts that I say, hey, listen up, people, here's a good post, right? So let me see, like, yeah, Jessica made a profound post. And then let's see, what else do I have in the feature tab? AJ made a really cool thing. So all the posts that I feel really give some extra value, all the posts add value, but when they give something extra, I put them in the feature thing. So I want to spotlight them a bit, right? Okay. So pay attention to this feature tab, media files. Okay, that people, this is obvious, but the guides is the other one to pay attention to. So this is what I'm talking about when I say, you want to know more about this, go to the guides tab. Right, so in the guides tab, we've got a couple of them here, and we've got, my guide. And now sometimes it'll show up, I think when because I'm the admin here, it might not show up. It will show in the side here. It will show the different guides, and you can click on them. And for me, it's not showing this because it's giving me the admin bar over here, right? But you see, then as you scroll down a bit, you get guide 2. But it should show up for you on the side here where you see the different guides, right? And then, so just keep going. Here we go. Guide 3 is freedom from anxiety and worry, free course, right? And then you can see it was module 1, and then we did, all the different ones, right? This was the introduction, and then part 2, part 3, part 5. So we were looking to do module 1 in one session, but there's always so much more to all this. It's broken up. It's taken us six parts to do module 1, but that's cool. That's just the way it is, right? And you see, here's a guide for Sher's journey. Sher writes wonderful shares and posts and articles, not because Sher's looking to be, make posts to get people to like her. No, Sher's sharing her journey, right? And through this, she's writing to herself. She's writing to the universe. You get an inside view of what's going on. And Sher does it because it gives her clarity. She gets to hear herself. She gets perspective on herself. This is part of doing these programs, is doing this. It's part of it, right? And it's a profound part. It's valuable for sure. Profound valuable for sure. However, that doesn't mean that we can't get value from it. Yes, we can. We get massive value when you see how somebody's thinking things through, working it out, what works for them, what they've come to understand, etc. Man, you get an inside look inside somebody's head, right? You don't get this very often. Then we've got Bina share, where she shares way of impeccability perspectives via astrology. It's a very profound thing to use that.
Oh, those are fun ones. I really like
They're
this.
fun, but also there's moreness to it. And then we get Jessica shares, right? And now you get to start with Jessica. This only 5 years. Sher's got, I don't know how many zillion with Sher. Let's see. Well, look, see, it's 139 plus these 4, so it's 140 plus, right? Yeah. But this is really cool. And then I made this guide after you'd already started making posts, right? So
yes. Yeah, this guide is just this year. Yeah.
It's the same with mine, That's why I'm sharing my some of the old memories. I keep adding because I've got, I don't know, 300 or 400 posts to probably add into this. The point I'm trying to make here, people, is that this is a resource. This is a profound resource. I don't know why they call them guides, but really, if you put all this together, you're going to get a couple of books here. This is a course in itself. Reading my guide, or Sher's one, or Jessica's. Okay, Jessica's is just starting now. But this is all the more valuable to read it, because you see where she's starting at. And okay, she kind of exploded. I call her Jessica Exploded, like I call Sher Unbound. And so, she got a jump start on things somewhat because, well, she deals with Sher, she knows Sher, and so on. So there's other, some essential info here, and, offers services and recommendations, and some testimonials and that. So anyway, so there's just there's value here. There's value here. This is what I'm trying to say. But for Elizabeth, the main point is coming down here to guide 3. And like I said, you should have them show up for you on the side here. Since I'm admin, it shows me different admin tools. I don't think you guys see this when you look through your thing, right? If you're not an admin or a moderator, you won't see this here. Anyway, So yeah, we do a lot of work, by the way, as an admin, I'm the chief and main admin, just so that people know, by the way, this is a full-time job. Yes, which, it's a big deal.
It
So
is,
just be
especially with a group
appreciative
this
of
size.
group in. It's a full-time job. Yeah, sure knows she has her own group, and especially a large group like this, just going through
It is
accepting
enormous.
and getting rid of all the junk nonsense and spam that people post and advertisements and all the stuff. So there's a lot of work involved. All right. So yeah, use that guides tab is what I'm trying to think. So use. And join. Anybody can join anytime on this course. Since we're at the end of the module here now, we'll go through some more of these and then we can wrap it up for module 1, which is very cool.
Right.
So be clear why you want to do this course, right? This says why you're already doing it, but also be clear. What's your intent? What do you wish to accomplish and or change? Now, I'm reading through these real quick, but write these out, right? Write them out in detail. And this will tell you a lot of her posts are writing out in detail, her responses to these tasks and
That's
exercises.
true. That's
Right.
true.
Right.
You really get a lot of insight into answering these questions for yourself.
Exactly. It's their point. So, these questions aren't a test to say, have you been paying attention?
No.
Right? They are there to stimulate your mind to go even further, right? And jump more. Because there's tons more stuff that I could write in this, particularly in this course. I particularly made a point to try and keep it as short as possible. So there's tons more I can add in. But through these questions, I'm hoping the question will put you on a path to, well, now that I think about that, like this next one, is acknowledgement that there's a problem enough? Well, I acknowledge I've got anxiety and worry. Is that enough?
Nope.
Exactly. But you need to come to that, not me. I
Yeah,
know it's not
right.
enough, but you need to come to that, right? Is that all that's involved? Again, you need to answer these questions for yourself. Or do we have to acknowledge, right? So these are very, very powerful to do these things, to do. Yes. All right. And module 1. Now, let's get started. What do you mean, so? Now, let's get started. I thought we did module 1. It's like, hello, it's like, what are you talking about, so? What are you talking about? Right? I'll get to this in a moment. Right? This is there for a reason. I'm not just being cheeky. Well, okay, I'm being cheeky too, Norma. I'm being naughty, Norma, naughty Norma. I'll tease Norma a little bit. The point here is that was our groundwork. Now we're going to get into details and specifics in part 2. So at the end of the programs, when people give me extra stuff, I like to add that. So this was a share from John, that just on his journey and what he's been about. So this is something that I'll do. I'll add stuff at the end here that weren't part of the program to start with, just kind of bonus material, right? So very cool share from John. So John busy making his own courses and programs right now. I've been helping him, so I'm looking forward to that. All right, so let me get out of screen share here and see what's going on. Georgianne and Norma, I don't know if Norma's still with us or not, but is there any comments, any questions, and anybody else listening who may not have commented just yet? If you have something, please add it right now. Then I will respond before we go. In the speeches tab, it's pretty much me curating all of the posts, right? And hang on. There we go. I just wanted to look, zoom in on the click on the video to bring it focused, because then I can scroll through the comments. If you just look at it directly like that, it wasn't allowing me to scroll through the comments. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Anything to add, Sho?
Nope. No. This has just been, this was really interesting this morning, practicing hearing. So.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah. So somebody else also said they had some audio problems.
Okay, good. So it wasn't just me.
Yeah, it may be a Facebook thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So one just you, yes. So yeah. Sometimes it's all you, but sometimes it's not. Right.
I'll take that. It's okay. It's okay. I'm good.
As appropriate. All right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
for anybody, again, watching all the way through to the end here, let me just re-emphasize this about doing and taking the course. Just because we've started module 1, it's not like, oh, I'm behind. No, 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 this makes no difference whatsoever, because we didn't share any repeat backs and takeaways, which we normally do.
Mhm.
But what we do is, when we come on and there's people who've just started, we'll say, okay, let's go. Module 1, slide 1, what was your takeaway on this? And we'll all listen to it, even though we've done it all. Because for those who are on module 6 or 7 or have done it all, it doesn't matter. We get to go over this important material again. It's always valuable.
you.
So don't feel like you're behind. There's no behind. It all works together. And then, when Cher's sharing her takeaways from wherever she's from, we say, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Oh, wow, okay. Well, it's always valuable. And then when you get there, you'll have a little bit, I'm not quite sure what Cher's referring to, but when you get to module 6 or 7 or wherever, and then you say, oh, that was, now I see what you're talking about. So it's always valuable. Extra perspective, extra perspectives. It's always valuable. So yeah, please join us anytime. You're always welcome. Brilliant, brilliant. And with that, unless you had something extra to add, Cher,
No.
we'll end a bit earlier. We don't have
Okay.
all the time. Feel free to do this.
No, this was wonderful today.
Yes. It was
Glad I
great
got
fun.
to
It was
join.
great fun. It was great fun. So is my voice more normal again now?
I never heard it not normal, but I think it's pretty good. I think I think
Just teasing Norma. I'm just teasing
I
Norma.
know.
Norma's very naughty. That's why she calls me naughty. See, people always call you what they are. Norma's very naughty. She's got a really nice, naughty sense of humor, which I greatly enjoy. So I enjoy teasing Norma. So that's great.
Fun.
Brilliant, brilliant. We gotta have fun.
Beautiful.
Gotta have fun. All right.
Thank you.
Stop live stream and stop recording. All right. Bye bye. See you, Cher. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And stop recording.